Welcome to this session of DDB 101. In this video, I'm going to talk about how can we handle the simultaneous breakpoint hits in DDB. So let's consider this simple setup where we have one server, but we have multiple clients both trying to send RPC to the server for the communication. Let's say the developer or the user trying to add a breakpoint to both clients right before they send the RPC to the server. And at the same time, both clients send a request simultaneously to the server. So both clients gonna hit the same breakpoint simultaneously. How can we address this issue, or how can we utilize the user interface provided by DDB inside VS Code to clearly navigate through different process? Let's see it. So here, in this terminal, I'm gonna start the server. Before that, let me start DDB first. Here, let's start the server. The server is attached. Let's try to just continue and keep the server running. Now, let me start the first client. The first client gonna send a text said, "Hi, world." It's attached. Now, before we continue, let's first jump into the next terminal. In this terminal, I'm gonna start another client, but this time you're gonna say, "Hi, DDB." Okay, this process is also attached. Now, let me set a breakpoint here at line, let's say, 25. This is a code block where both clients gonna hit when they try to send out RPC. So both clients gonna send out RPC at this line. But before doing so, because they're starting simultaneously, they both gonna hit this breakpoint first. Now, let me click the continue button so we can start both clients so that they can hit the breakpoint simultaneously. You can see here, there's a highlighted line with this information. It says it's executing by two threads with session ID 2, thread ID 43, and session ID 3, and thread ID 44. So if you go back to this call stack window, and if you examine this panel, you can see there are two threads have this visual information says paused on breakpoints. In this case, we can see there are two threads, both are paused on the breakpoint. If we compare these two information, we can see they're corresponding to each other. In this case, I'm focusing on the thread session ID 3 and thread ID 44. You can also view this current focused frame and thread and session ID in the status bar. Here, the status bar also provides information for developer to view. So it gives you indication which frame, which session, and which thread you are currently focused on. For example, I can also switch to this frame. And I click on this line. They're actually on the same line. But if we look at this information on the status bar, it changed to the session 2, thread 43, and frame 0, which is essentially corresponding to this frame. Let me try again to switch to a different frame. So you can see the information changed. Now, I'm focusing on this frame, so I can perform the step over operation on this particular thread. Let me do this. So here you can see, right now we have two highlighted lines. One is executing by session 3, one is actually executing by session 2. And right now, we are focusing on session 3, thread 44. Essentially, we are running this line. So if I click the step over again, this line gonna be on line 27. Now, I can also step in this line. So you can see this line is saying it's executing by session 2, so I have to navigate back to this session 2 and click this frame. Now I can control this thread. by doing stepping. Let me try one more time, and one more time. Now, you can also switch between these two frames to view some local variable for these frames. For example, let's say I want to understand what's the text value variable here in both frame. Let me add this to the watch panel. Now, let me change the expression a little bit so that I can view the C string. So you can see here, it says, hi, world. And by viewing the current focus frame, we can see this is actually from the thread 43 from the session 2. So session 2 says, hello, world. Now, let me switch back to session 3. Let's click this frame. You can see all the watch panel and local variable is also updated to reflect the current status of that particular frame from a different session. So here it says, hello, hi DDB.